The time and we have a quorum. I call to order the meeting of the Subcommittee on the Development of New Quality Productive Forces. First of all, let's invite the government officials in. We only have one item on the agenda today, that's development of new quality productive forces and promotion of new industrialization. We welcome the Secretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry, Professor Sun Dong, and his team for attending today's meeting. The administration has prepared the documents for this item. There's also a PowerPoint presentation. It has been newly updated, so it has been tabled just now. I will now first invite Professor Sun Dong to give us a briefing, and then we will have the PowerPoint presentation. Professor Sun, please. Chairperson, today we are briefing members on the government's key measures and latest progress in developing new quality productive forces and promoting new industrialization in Hong Kong. The National 15th Five-Year Plan emphasizes the deep integration of technological industrial innovation, the establishment of a modern industrial system with advanced manufacturing as the backbone, and the consolidation and strengthening of the real economy. It also clearly requires that significant progress be made in new industrialization during the period. Under one country, two systems, we have a highly internationalized and market-driven business environment, and the unique advantages of being backed by the motherland and connected to the world, and serving as a bridge between the mainland and the international community. In response to the complex and evolving global landscape, and to align with the national development strategies while promoting our high-quality economic development, the government has been formulating industry development strategies suited to local circumstances, with a view to seizing the opportunities arising from a new wave of technological innovation and industrial transformation. We have promulgated the Hong Kong Innovation and Technology Development Blueprint in December 2022. In active alignment with national development strategies, we have signed the cooperation agreements on the development of new quality productive forces and the promotion of new industrialization with the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology in September 2024. The agreement supports Hong Kong in developing new quality productive forces in accordance with local conditions, advancing new industrialization, strengthening collaboration in industry and information technology, and fostering complementary advantages and coordinated developments between Hong Kong and the mainland. To more effectively take forward the relevant development directions and strategies, we have been taken forward a series of measures. That includes the new industrialization funding scheme, pilot manufacturing and production line upgrade support scheme, new industrialization acceleration scheme, the establishment of the first national manufacturing innovation center outside China, outside of our country, and other measures to support the developments of downstream industries. Now, to take forward the overall development of new industrialization in Hong Kong, we have been leveraging our role as the superconnector and super value adder for the country. We have been serving mainland and overseas enterprises. We have been promoting the establishment and expansion of these businesses in Hong Kong to enrich our ecosystem and build a favorable environment for R&D development. Talent is the key resources for R&D development, as well as the sustainable development of our industries. Now, in this wave of transformation, enterprises will have more demand for high-quality talents. That's why we have been enriching our talent pool to strengthen our foundation for R&D ecosystem. Now, under the R&D fund, we have established a $10 billion R&D industry-oriented fund as a fund of funds to channel more investments to specify strategic emerging and future industries so as to systematically build our R&D industry ecosystem. The Finance Committee of the LegCo has approved the funding for the ITIF in July 2025. The R&D Commission accordingly invited applications for fund managers between November 2025 and January this year. We are now pressing ahead with the relevant work, including arranging meetings with eligible fund managers in batches, with a view to commencing operation of the ITIF within the year. Also, through the Hong Kong Science and Technology Park Corporation and Cyberport, we have been providing resources for startups that includes incubation programs, rental concessions, workspace shared facilities, funding support, marketing, and business development support. With the opening of the Hong Kong Park in the Loop, the Hong Kong Shenzhen Innovation and Technology Park Limited has launched the incubation program in the first quarter of this year and held the HSITP incubation program launch ceremony come Technology Day exhibition in March this year. The first incubation program focuses on the two major industries of life and health technology and AI and data science, with the aim of providing financial assistance and comprehensive support services for the startups concerned. And also, we have enhanced the I&T Venture Fund, and also we have launched the application for pilot I&T Accelerator Scheme. Now, we have been attracting overseas and local professional startup service institutions with rich experience to set up accelerator bases in Hong Kong. And also, yesterday, we have announced the expansion of the scope of economic activities covering I&T. The new scope includes intellectual properties, printing, as well as digital services, as well as cloud services. We have made reference to the latest version of the UN's international trade categories to cover more companies in this scope so as to tie in with the new changes. Now, according to the statistics, in 2024, I&T and new industrialization industry accounts for 3.8% of our GDP. It shows that it has been actively contributing to our economic growth and competitiveness. Now, in the following, my team will present the PowerPoint presentation, and we will take members' views afterwards. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Sun Dong. Which government official will present the PowerPoint? Thank you. And members may now press the button. Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. I will brief members on the government's key measures in developing new quality productive forces and promoting new industrialization in Hong Kong, as well as the latest progress. In line with the nation's 15th Five-Year Plan, which emphasizes on the deep integration of technological and industrial innovation, the government has been reforming our new industrialization system. Now, in 2024, the New Industrialization Development Office has been established under the ITIB, which adopts an industry-oriented approach to coordinate the work in relation to new industrialization. Now, that includes promoting transformation and upgrade of conventional industries, nurturing emerging industries, focusing on future industries, including advanced manufacturing, life and health science, and AI, and finally, developing producers' services to empower the development of industries. The government has been implementing a series of measures to promote the development of downstream industries, to enhance support for the establishment of more smart production lines. The ITC has implemented enhancement measures in January 2024 under the new industrialization funding scheme to allow enterprises to undertake up to 3 projects at any one time with a total maximum funding of $45 million on a matching basis of 1:2 to set up new smart production lines in Hong Kong. Also, the ITC has also launched the pilot manufacturing and production line upgrade support scheme in November 2025 to provide funding support on a matching basis of 1:2 to encourage local manufacturing enterprises to adopt smart production technologies. The funding ceiling is $250,000 per project. We have held a number of briefing sessions and also promote the program through TV media interviews. Now, on nurturing emerging and future industries to provide further support to enterprises engaging in strategic industries to establish production facilities in Hong Kong. In September 2024, the ITC has launched the new industrialization acceleration scheme to provide funding support on a 1 to 2 basis for the enterprises, subject to a funding cap of $200 million per enterprise. In November last year, the minimum total project cost requirements was lowered from $300 million to $150 million. And funding will be provided on a matching basis for the employment of relevant technical personnel, in addition to that of research talents. And members are very familiar with our new proposal in this year's budget to earmark $220 million for establishing in Hong Kong the first national manufacturing innovation center outside the Chinese mainland. The aims are to facilitate breakthroughs in key power semiconductor technologies as well as other fields to bring together international talents. In April, we have consulted the panel on commerce, industry, innovation and technology of the electrical in April, and we have received their support. We will submit the proposal to the Finance Committee for approval. And within the year, we will launch the new industrialization elite enterprises nurturing scheme to dovetail with the development direction of new industrialization in Hong Kong by selecting, supporting, and nurturing a group of targeted high-growth enterprises which develop their businesses in Hong Kong and contribute to local economic development. This will pool resources from various sectors to nurture future industry leaders for new industrialization. To speed up the development of emerging industries and new industries, we will leverage our role as a superconnector and super value adder to facilitate I&T enterprises from the mainland overseas to land in Hong Kong or expand their operations here. Now, as an important service window for these strategic enterprises seeking to develop or expand in Hong Kong, the NIDO, that is the New Industrialization Development Office under the ITIB, has been providing necessary assistance for these enterprises, especially with regard to the support measures and the implementation of policies. We have been bringing in leading or potential enterprises to establish or expand in Hong Kong. Some of them have already listed in our stock market. On talent, we will continue to enrich our talent resources to help industries to take forward new industrialization. That includes the Research Talent Hub, the New Industrialization and Technology Training Program, and also the Technology Talent Ambition Scheme for companies subsidized under NIAS. In terms of channeling social capital into new industrialization, for the long-term development of the I&T industries in Hong Kong, particularly in relation to the promotion of transformation and commercialization of R&D outcomes, besides assisting traditional manufacturing sector to upgrade and transform and attracting overseas enterprises to Hong Kong, we have revamped our approach to investing in I&T industries. We have set aside $10 billion under the ITF to establish the I&T industry-oriented fund, this IPIF, to form a fund of funds. It is industry-led and development-oriented, and there are 5 thematic areas, including life and health technology, AI and robotics, semiconductors and smart devices, digitalization, upgrading and transformation, and future and sustainable development. One or more sub-funds will be set up under each thematic area. Now, through a diversified investment portfolio, we will invest in early-stage, small-scale, and hard technology enterprises, as well as enterprises at different stages of development, including industry chain leaders. Now, the Finance Committee has approved funding for this fund in July, and we have already started accepting application from fund managers. Now, we are now meeting with selected fund managers so as to commission the fund early this year. To establish a robust I&T environment, we must provide more support to startups. We do this mainly through the HK, STPC, and Cyberports. As of March this year, the number of tenants in these 2 flagship platforms have reached 4,300, including incubatees and graduates. 39 of them have been listed, and there are 13 unicorns. Companies in the two parks have raised a total of about $212.8 billion in funding and received over 2,200 local and international awards. With the opening of the Hong Kong Park in the Loop, the HSITPL has launched the incubation program. Now, the Secretary has mentioned the incubation program. Now, during the open application period, we have received more than 750 applications, with 108 startups selected. Now, these startups come from around the globe, with local startups accounting to some 50%, and Macau and mainland 30%, and overseas accounting for 16%. And also, we have enhanced the I&T Venture Fund to allocate $1.5 billion to establish a joint fund with the trade on a one-to-one matching basis to invest in strategic startups so as to enhance the ecosystem. Just last month, we announced the selected in principle fund managers. Now, we look forward to these fund managers completing their fundraising as soon as possible so as to match with government capital and invest in the funds. And also, we have been reviewing the pilot I&T accelerator scheme so as to attract overseas and local professional startups, service institutions with rich experience to set up accelerated bases in Hong Kong so as to expedite the formation of the ecosystem. Now, with our initial efforts, we have already formed an initial layout with new industrialization as the focus. Now, for life and health, there are some applications which have received support from the vetting committee. For example, Jean-Marie Pharmaco has already received approval to establish production line for germ-free eye drops. Now, Asia Advanced Isotope Technologies Limited has received approval to establish production line for the advanced medical device. Now, Sunfei Healthcare in Singapore will focus on the deep integration between health data science and technology. Now, for AI, we are introducing leaders into Hong Kong as well. That includes one of the 6 little dragons in Hangzhou, Brainco. We also have Xtel Pi, which provides smart solution for industries. There's also Westwell, which focuses on smart logistics. Now, Minimax, the internationally renowned AI company, is also listed in Hong Kong. In advanced manufacturing and microelectronics, we have also attracted a lot of leaders into Hong Kong. We are also providing support to potential enterprises. Now, that includes giving support to the application by the Oriental Materials, a famous company in the country. Now, for Xiamen Energy Storage, they will establish their commercialization and pilot space in the Hong Kong Park in the Loop. Now, CATL and also Horizon Robotics, the leading smart vehicles manufacturer in the country, have also listed in Hong Kong. And also, we are providing support to Sense to come to Hong Kong. In terms of infrastructure, the Sandy Ridge Data Park has been tendered to a company for development into an advanced data center. To summarize, in terms of new industrialization and establishing new quality productive forces, we have achieved some initial results. Now, according to the updated framework, the estimation shows that in 2024, manufacturing and new industrialization accounts for 3.8% of our local GDP. That shows that the government's policies are effective in enhancing our competitiveness in the field. Now, in terms of the actual figures under different schemes, the vetting committees have supported 77 applications under the new industrialization funding scheme involving 130 production lines involving $1.1 billion in private investments and $497 million in subsidies. Now, on the new industrialization acceleration scheme, we have supported 5 applications involving some $3 billion, with some $2 billion invested by enterprises. And also, the ITIB has supported 620 potential or leading R&D enterprises to come to Hong Kong and expand their business here. Now, for startups in 2014, there were only 1,400 startups. Last year, the number has surged to over 5,000. Now, from 2,400 employees in 2014, the number of employees employed by startups has surged to 19,000 last year. It shows that we are already implementing the measures in the blueprints and we are making solid progress. Now, in the long run, in order to follow through the directions under the blueprints, as well as enhancing the ecosystem for new industrialization, in December last year, the government has started a consultancy study on the medium to long-term development of new industrialization in Hong Kong. Now, we will consult the subcommittee in a timely manner. And also, the ITIB as well as the Industry Development Organization under the UN have just issued a press release on collaboration between the two organizations. That includes establishing a global advanced manufacturing excellence center in Hong Kong so as to forge Hong Kong into an internationalized advanced platform. And of course, we will continue to dovetail the National 5-Year Plan to develop regional economy and seek collaborative growth. That concludes my report.
好，唔該晒。
Thank you very much. Mr. Percy Leung just gave us a presentation. He is the Principal Assistant Secretary for Innovation, Technology and Industry of the ITIB. 8 members have pressed the button. I'll read out their names. Mr. Chen Sing Ying, Mr. Dennis Lam, Mr. Lam Chen Sing, Mr. Thomas So, Mr. Albert Chuang, Mr. Hong Kam-in, Mr. Lee Chen Kam, Professor William Wong. Each member will have 5 minutes. Mr. Chen Ying. Thank you, Madam Chair. I thank the administration for the detailed presentation. I have some questions regarding a few programs. First, on the pilot manufacturing and production line upgrade support scheme, it is said that some 40-odd companies have registered. They're about to file an application, but the administration did not tell us how many companies have filed an application. Because as far as I understand, applicants will have to complete certain procurement procedures before they can file an application. So how many enterprises have started with their procurement procedures, and what factors will affect these enterprises in making a decision as to whether or not to file an application, and what will the administration consider? Second, on the new industrialization acceleration scheme, in 2024, we approved $10 billion for the scheme. The administration said that they only supported 5 applications with a total investment amount of $1 billion, with $2 billion of private investment. So is the progress ideal? Because the funding ratio is 1 to 2 on a government to enterprise basis. Is the matching ratio attractive enough? If we change it to 1 to 1, will that attract more investment? Third, on the new industrialization elite enterprises nurturing scheme, the scheme requires the invitation and nomination of enterprises. Why is there such a requirement? Should we not allow enterprises to nominate themselves or apply for nomination so that they can be more proactive instead of having them to wait until they are being nominated by some selected enterprises? Thank you. Secretary, 3 questions. Thank you for 3 questions. The first question has to do with the production line upgrade support scheme. I will ask Ms. Chen to answer that question. The member just asked about the pilot manufacturing and production line upgrade support scheme and its progress. In November last year, we launched the scheme. applicants need to make use of the computer systems of the administration to file their application. Because according to our past experience, when applicants try to secure tenders, they were not familiar with the procedures, and they're not familiar with what tenderers there are or service providers there are on the market. By introducing such an arrangement, applicants will be able to make use of the pre-registered potential contractors on the system. They can make use of an e-procurement function to complete the tender process. We have made some adjustment to the scheme. Applicant can complete the e-procurement procedures on the system before they proceed to filing an application. On the paper, we said that 42 enterprises have registered on the website with a view to submitting applications. There are over 10 enterprises that have made use of the e-procurement functions. With the efforts they've spent on using the e-procurement procedures, according to our understanding, the Productivity Council, which is the secretariat of the scheme, these 10-odd enterprises or these 40-odd enterprises will be filing an application. As soon as these 10-odd companies have completed the e-procurement process, they would file an application. Some of them have been approved. As for the second question on the acceleration scheme, we announced the scheme in September 2024. It's been 1.5 years. We have received some 10-odd to 20-odd applications. So overall speaking, this is a part of our new industries. We're going from 0 to 1. We announced that 5 applications have been approved. Some approval have not been announced yet. Some enterprises have their applications rejected. We did not announce a figure either. During the negotiation process, we found that some enterprises were problematic. We did process quite a number of applications. As far as I understand, the ITC is still processing end cases. Applicants for the acceleration scheme need to set up a production line, need to set up a factory in Hong Kong. They're not just applying for funding for R&D. As you can see from our ceremonies, all these applicants have to have factory in Hong Kong. The problem is that we don't have land, and this is our biggest bottleneck. We ask all enterprises to secure funding on their own because the matching ratio is 1 to 2. From 2024 to 2025, many enterprises withdrew from their applications because of financial problems. We have been receiving more and more inquiries because our business environment is becoming more favorable. The policy address also mentioned that we are going to lower the project cost requirement. It is lowered now from $300 million to $150 million, starting from the end of last year. We offered a support to an enterprise who have secured less than some $300 million of total investment. We are confident that the figure will go up eventually. Your third question on the Elite Enterprises Nurturing Scheme. This is the first time we launched such a scheme, so the government tends to be more cautious. As the first step, we ask enterprises that are more influential and more recognized to nominate enterprises. After the first round is completed, we may relax the application threshold. Thank you.
Mr. Dennis Leung. Thank you, Chair. According to the paper, manufacturing and new industrialization-related industries have accounted for 3.5% in year 2024, and that's the estimate. So do we have the figures for the estimate in 2025 and the future, so that we will know that the money we are investing in the fields is working? Especially my question for the Commissioner for Innovation and Technology is, are there any specific measures to dovetail the National 15th Five-Year Plan? Now, how can the ITIB encourages more research and studies to take place in universities in relation to advanced manufacturing and new industrialization? Now, I have become aware of a situation. We're still following the international, that is the US or European standard for face masks, that's N95. However, we have a separate set of standard in the country. So how can the hospital authority and the government provide a clearer direction for local manufacturers in terms of the standard to follow? Now, in terms of low altitude economy, there will be drones deployed all along the industry chain. So does Hong Kong have the capacity to nurture passenger-carrying drones? And can we make use of the hotel loop to promote new industrialization? Secretary, please. Thank you. I will first defer to the Assistant Commissioner for Innovation Technology. The Commissioner, Dr. Ge. Thank you. Now we have tailor-made our policies on new industrialization according to local conditions. And of course, we have been applying the UN's latest standard back in 2025. Now, if a company owns the final product, or if a company owns the raw materials for producing the products, on these occasions, even though part of the production process is outsourced, then the company will still be counted as a manufacturer. That's the latest standard set by the UN. That helps a lot because there are a lot of companies in Hong Kong engaging in design of chips and also other fields. They own the IP, although they have outsourced the production to others. So that fits our context. So according to the estimated figure in 2024, the GDP contribution by the industry is 3.8%. Now the new figure for last year will be announced soon, and we predict that the figure will still be admirable. Now, with the commissioning of the Sandy Ridge Data Park, there will be more contribution to our economy by the industry, so we are confident that the number will continue to rise. So we are adopting a two-pronged approach. On one hand, we are attracting leading or potential enterprises to establish in Hong Kong. On the other hand, we are strengthening our assistance to local enterprises. That includes programs like the new industrialization elite enterprises nurturing scheme. The goal is to nurture local industry leaders. So we have many schemes, including the accelerator scheme, the Raise Plus scheme, and also the INT-oriented fund. We are gradually implementing these schemes, and one can safely expect that the environment for new industrialization-related industry will be only better in the future. Now, concerning the last two questions, concerning drones and low-altitude economy. Now, concerning future industries, we are definitely focusing on giving support to these industries. Now, here's some news for you. Now, our team has been vetting the application under the new industrialization accelerator scheme, and that's related to drone. So keep looking forward to it. Next, Mr. Lam Chun Sing. Thank you. Now, my question is, how are we integrating the academia, the industry, as well as the research sector in pursuing new industrialization so as to nurture technologies and talents at the same time? Are you collaborating with the Education Bureau? For instance, the EDB will develop the university town in the Northern Metropolis. $10 billion have been set aside to grant loans to universities to build campuses in the Northern Metropolis. So will the government provide more facilitation to applicants of the fund who focus on simultaneously nurturing talents and technologies? Can you strengthen your collaboration with the EDB on that? Second, some industries have been promoting GBA standards. That includes construction industry, and also we have the Hong Kong Railway Standard, which will be incorporated into the GBA standard, and even other international standards. For new industries, we have the Hetao Loop. On the Hong Kong side, we have advantages in terms of the legislative framework as well as our systems. On the mainland side, the advantage is speed and capacity. So can we establish more GBA standards in the loop and promote them to the world? And finally, on talents. Paragraph 15 mentions the Research Talent Hub program, which subsidizes companies to engage research talents up to the number of 4. And on a matching basis, they can engage up to 36 research talents. But it seems that it is only open to specified companies in the HKSTC and the cyberports. Can we extend the program to companies in other fields and even to SMEs? Is there room for providing more support to enterprises to engage talents under the Research Talent Hub program? Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Lam. On the last question about the Research Talent Hub, I will first defer to Ms. Rosalind Zhang, Assistant Commissioner. Ms. Zhang, please. Thank you. Concerning the Research Talent Hub program, the scope of coverage is rather diverse at present. Now, besides companies in HKSTPC and the cyberports, which can apply for subsidies to engage research talents under the program, there are other eligible companies. For example, owners and companies engaging in projects which have already received funding under the new industrialization funding scheme. They are also eligible for the Research Talent Hub program. And also the new industrialization accelerator scheme. There is also other funding available under that program. Now, those projects are of vast scales. So besides the 36 research talents quota, there are other additional subsidies. Now, besides research talents, there are also other subsidies available for companies under the new industrialization acceleration scheme to engage more technological talents. So we hope that the funds will cover all companies. Secretary, concerning the first question, that is integration between the research sector and the industry. Now, this has been our policy direction. We have expanded the scope of collaboration to government, industry, and the research sector. Now, we have the Race Plus scheme, which aims to commercialize research outcomes with the support of the industry. Now, many of our programs are being taken forward by research teams in universities, so it is safe to say that universities have been our important partner in the past. Most of the funding available for universities to engage in researchers comes from the ITIB. That includes the field of aerospace, a field in which our company has been excelling. Now, many universities have participated in the country's aerospace program with our funding. That includes Changjiang 1 to 3, as well as the Tiangong, and also a new program recently. Now, with the support of the ITIB, there are several universities participating in the Tianwen research project. Now, concerning the interaction between the education sector and the industries, of course, they have different roles to play. Generally speaking, universities' mission is to nurture new quality productive forces as well as talents. Now, industries are responsible for the last mile, that is commercializing the results. So we have the concept from 0 to 1 and from 1 to n. So all companies and sectors must understand their specific roles clearly, and also their relative positions in the larger INT layouts in Hong Kong. Now, concerning GBA standard, we have been stressing the importance of integrated growth between Hong Kong and other cities in the Bay Area. So besides researchers, we are now making active preparation for synergized industry development. Now, we want to promote Hong Kong and GBA standard to the world and make them the international standard. That's our goal. Now, our standards have been widely recognized in the world. We have mutual recognition agreements with more than 120 economies. So Hong Kong standards are widely recognized by the larger world. At the same time, there are lots of good practices in the Bay Area for Hong Kong to learn and adopt. So in the path of deeper integration with the Bay Area, we will identify good and leading GBA practices and promote them to the world. And that's the focus of our next step. Now we have raised it with the UN's industry organization about our vision. And we're going to build the first National Manufacturing Innovation Center outside of Chinese mainland in Hong Kong. So through this platform, we will promote these standards to the world.
接下一位係蘇兆聰議員。
Next, Mr. Thomas So. Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to say that I fully support the administration in developing new quality productive forces and promoting new industrialization in Hong Kong. I have two questions. I'd like to seek clarifications from the administration. First, on the New Industrialization Vetting Committee, it was established in 2022. How does this committee work with the Northern Metropolis Industry Park Company? Second, on attracting enterprises, investment, and startups, what concessions do we have for the Northern Metropolis? I just talked about the committee. The said committee is to monitor the implementation of the blueprint. The secretary is the chairman of the committee. Members of the committee comprise a president of the Science Park and Cyberport. We now have the Hung Shui Kiu Santin Industry Park Company for the Northern Metropolis. We have appointed the chairman of the board of directors of the company. I wonder if the committee will incorporate the industry park members as well. Because in the industry park, some of the official directors come from the ITIB. So I wonder if the two entities will merge for a consolidated overview of the Northern Metropolis. The Science Park and Cyberport have offered support to startups on areas such as rental concessions, incubation programs, workspace, shared facilities, so on and so forth. We're not sure what concessionary measures we have for the Northern Metropolis. Can the administration tell us if the relevant concessionary measures will be similar with that of the Hong Kong STPC and the Cyberport? Secretary, thank you for the questions. On the New Industrialization Development Committee, it was led by the ITIB and the stakeholders. It was established in 2022. We have received invaluable suggestions from the trade, and they have largely been implemented. We have representatives from different departments in the committee. You talked about the new parks in the Northern Metropolis, including the Hung Shui Kiu Industry Park and Sentin Technoval. We're willing to consider your suggestions. We may invite representatives of these two parks to join the committee. Thank you for your reminder. Second, on how we attract enterprises and investment to the Northern Metropolis. Cyberport have been developing for years. The hardware facilities there are already very comprehensive. We offer enterprises measures so that they can join Cyberport. and develop their business. However, for the Northern Metropolis, the Sentin Technopole, the Hongshi Q Park are just starting to form. The issue now we have is how we can attract enterprises to establish the presence here. So building and construction are major works. The concessionary policies they offer may be different from that for the Science Park and Cyberport. I believe that as we build parks in the Northern Metropolis, the focus will be on how we can attract enterprises to contribute to the development, including land creation and development. We're going to offer support for the return of these companies' investment. In fact, in the last year's policy address, the chief executive mentioned that we're going to establish a committee for that. The committee will come up with policies such as concessionary measures for enterprises that are willing to participate in the construction of the parks. Next, Mr. Albert Chuang. The administration have rolled out many different programs and schemes to develop new quality productive forces and promote new industrialization. I fully support that. I have a few questions. It is said that the NIDO will take forward the development directions and strategies. But for SMEs, it's difficult for them to identify programs and schemes suitable for them. I wonder if the NIDO will create a single window to offer personal assistance and concrete guidelines for SMEs. Second, on the pilot manufacturing and production line upgrade and support scheme, it is said that 2,100 participants have been reached out by the administration. The administration said that some 10-odd companies are doing e-procure. 42 companies have registered on the Manufacturing Plus website. The figure is on the low side. Doesn't mean that the $200,000 subsidy is not as attractive. Will the administration consider increasing the funding subsidy or streamlining the approval procedures? Third, the Chinese Manufacturers Association suggests that we target the new employment model of the mainland and adjust our elite enterprises nurturing scheme. I wonder if the administration will expand the scope of the scheme so that traditional industries can benefit if they are willing to make use of AI to upgrade. Apart from offering them the honorary title, will the administration offer concrete financial support? My last question. I'm glad that the administration is earmarking some $100 million on the I&T industry-oriented fund, and they are investing in early-stage, small-scale, and hard technology enterprises. But very often, investment managers that focus on short-term return would invest in leading enterprises. As if there is a loss in the investment, is there a cut loss mechanism? So I have declared interest. I am Deputy Chairman of the Chinese Manufacturers Association. Thank you for your question. First of all, I'd like to ask Ms. Rosalind Chung to answer the first question, and then I will answer the rest of the questions. Thank you. To answer Mr. Zhang's first question on the pilot manufacturing and production line upgrade support scheme, your question covers two areas. First, on progress. Second, on funding scale. Now, in terms of progress, well, the support scheme was only launched in November last year. At the initial stage, we focus on promotion and advertisement. Productivity Council is our secretariat. We've spent much time and effort to reach out to different enterprises or potential applicants and explain to them about the support scheme. We've reached out to more than 2,000 participants. I participated in the briefing sessions because I wanted to hear from the stakeholders what their views are regarding the scheme and what we can further clarify. So we're of the view that we should focus on promotion when we first launched the scheme. As I mentioned, some 40 enterprises have registered on the website. Some 10-odd enterprises are doing the e-procure. The progress is within expectation. Every month, we meet with the Productivity Council to see what we can improve. So that brings us to the second question. Of course, we always want to speed up the progress. As the name of the scheme says, this is a pilot production line upgrade support scheme. We want to make use of these 2 years' time to see if the scheme meets the needs of the stakeholders. Is the funding ceiling of $250,000 per project suitable? Let me give you some background information. When we designed this scheme, we have made reference to other programs. We've looked at the operating expenditure of companies on relevant projects, which is approximately $500,000. As we provide funding support on a batching basis of 1 to 2 by offering a funding ceiling of $250,000, then the entire project would be of $750,000, and that scale is suitable. Secretary, regarding the rest of the questions, first on the single window to be offered by the NIDO. This NIDO is under the ITIB. It works on policies. There are only 7 staff members in the NIDO, including the head and the permanent secretary. As new industries are becoming more and more important, we hope that the administration will establish a dedicated enforcement entity, because we don't have that. So very soon we're coming to submit a personnel and funding proposal to establish a dedicated entity for the operation areas. NIDO was only established for quite a few years with just a few staff members, yet we have achieved so much. You talked about one-stop single window. We need the cooperation of other departments and bureaus to promote new industrialization. Say, for example, the IT-oriented fund. When we want to attract large enterprises, we need many different departments' help and assistance. When we develop new industries, we rely on industry parks. We have served over 620 enterprises. Pragmatically speaking, I think that we have too few people at the NIDO. If we actually want to implement the blueprint on new industries, we need a dedicated enforcement department. We hope that very soon we can nurture our own celebrity and leading enterprises. We have nurtured many startups, but they have left Hong Kong. We want to build and create our homegrown star enterprise. We don't have financial resources to support them directly, but hopefully through other ways we recognize elite enterprises. You ask if we are going to offer financial support in the future. But now, hopefully, through different means of support, we help them in financing their business. On INT-oriented fund, as it's still ongoing, I'm not in the position to disclose further, but the focus is investing in early stage, small scale, and hard technology enterprises. This industry-oriented fund is different from the Innovation and Technology Venture Fund. The venture fund focuses on startup ecosystem. The industry-oriented fund support not just startups, but other enterprises that want to establish a presence in Hong Kong. As long as they are able to contribute to the GDP or employment market of Hong Kong, we are going to support them. With the support of the members, well, that's the end of my reply. Thank you.
多謝主席，咁亦都即係多。
Mr. Hong came in. Thank you. I recognize the efforts made by the ITIB under the leadership of Professor Sun Dong. Now, the path ahead is rough. We all understand that. In particular, Hong Kong has scarce land resource and expensive rent. Now, on that matter, on rent, I've heard some business leaders who would like to establish smart production lines in Hong Kong. However, they balked at the expensive rents at Cyberport and the HKS TPC. The rents are much higher than the rents in industrial buildings in Kwun Tong. So is there room for negotiating the rents level down? But that's government-run facilities. So can I have an answer from the ITIB on that? And also, the INT Industry-Oriented Fund and the INT Venture Fund, $10 billion and $1.5 billion on the matching basis. So I support these funds. So I think we need to publicize these two funds more to mainland and overseas businesses. And has the government set KPIs for the applicants under the fund? Now, investment can go both ways. There may be a profit and there may be a loss. So what happens if profits are made, and what happens if the applicants suffer a loss? We need some monitoring. Secretary, thank you. Concerning the high rent level, I think I'm more upset than you concerning the high rents. Now, with the significant upfront costs in research, companies still have to pay a very expensive amount of costs in terms of rents and power. So with the creation of the Northern Metropolis, we hope that there will be more lands available for INT, and that would drive the rent level down. So we have limited room for development. And the more scarce a resource is, the more expensive it is. So with the creation of more land and with the building up of the INT ecosystem, we hope that the rent level will go down for INT businesses. Now, I agree with Mr. Kam that we need to do better in publicizing our advantages. We have support for enterprises. And after establishing an operation in Hong Kong, in the long run, the rent level for businesses is affordable. So in the initial period, after we have built the facilities, we need to recover the costs spent on construction. So initially, the rents will be higher. So we understand that in running a business, we need to be pragmatic about cost. At the same time, the government would not impose a cap on the rent charged by the park companies, because the parks are running on a self-sufficient basis. We are not subsidizing the parks, so we need to allow some flexibility in rent setting by the parks. So in the long run, with the Northern Metropolis, we believe that there is room for rents to be lowered. But this is not a question we can answer now. There are other types of costs, including manpower costs and other utilities costs. Now, we think that it would be reasonable for companies to establish the high value-added parts of their business in Hong Kong, which can afford them the rent. Now, this is the same for any business. For the government to be involved, we can't make the businesses promise us that there will only be a profit, not a loss. So there is always a risk attached to government involvement in the business. So at the present, the matching ratio is 1 to 2. Besides nurturing the business, the government would like to become a partner in the business. We want to share the risk. So of course, it would be best if the businesses are profitable. Now, we have invested some $1.1 billion in the Cyberport, which have attracted $10 billion from the private sector. So it shows that the government's involvement is attractive to the trade, and the achievements are admirable. Next, Mr. Michael Lee. Thank you, Chairperson. Now, this term of the government has renamed the Bureau into the Industry, Innovation, Technology Bureau. So it shows that the government is attaching more importance to developing Hong Kong's industries. Now, the PowerPoint presentation has showed us the results achieved by the Bureau. After all, Hong Kong is not the only city seeking to attract leading enterprises to establish in themselves. There is a global competition for leading enterprises. So back in 2024, you have launched the new industrialization acceleration scheme. In 2025, in November, pursuing to members' views, you have enhanced the scheme in terms of the matching ratio as well as the funding for engaging research talents. It shows that you have listened to the trade to make the scheme more attractive to your targeted audience. So how did you design the matching ratio for technological staff and research talents? Now, after all, the funding cap is high, and the size of investments required has been lowered from $300 million to $150 million. So many enterprises are interested in your scheme. So how would you decide whether an enterprise is eligible for the fund, and what is the workflow for vetting the application. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Michael Lee, for your questions. First of all, on the new industrialization acceleration scheme, the concept is simple. That is to accelerate the establishment of production lines by quality businesses in Hong Kong to achieve a breakthrough from 0 to 1. So we are throwing in an amount of money to support the businesses on a 1 to 2 basis. Now, over the past 1.5 years, the scheme has been operating smoothly. Since the announcement of the approved projects, it seems that those approved enterprises are still very passionate about the developments in Hong Kong. So these enterprises chose Hong Kong because there's something that only Hong Kong can do. If they can choose to do so in the mainland, they would not come to Hong Kong. So Hong Kong's advantage is our internationalized environment. So we can foresee a considerable number of businesses with similar needs. So that provides room for the growth of industries in Hong Kong. Otherwise, given our expensive cost, no businesses would come to Hong Kong to conduct researches. So our advantages, including highly internationalized environments, have offset the expensive cost, including rent here. Now we have received more and more applications under the various schemes. So we look forward to announcing the vetting results. So please keep looking forward to our announcement. About the scope, those enterprises are mainly in the relevant thematic fields. Now, usually, enterprises in these fields have high growth potential, so they will be eligible for our schemes. Now, for other enterprises, if they can present elements which also fit our requirements, we will also approve their application. Secretary, the initial period is the hardest. Now, despite the expensive costs, including rent, we have a lot of advantages, including our simple tax regime, and also there will be a lot of lands available in the Northern Metropolis. So I give my full support to the Secretary. Thank you for your support. If we can increase the supply of land, actually, with our support, the rent level is comparable to the levels in the mainland. However, our land resources are valuable, so we will not just grant them to just any applicant. We have some basic requirements for the applicants to justify spending these valuable resources. Next, Professor William Wong. Thank you, Chairperson. First of all, I need to thank the Bureau for supporting the INT sector. Now, I think the Bureau's work is highly aligned with the missions mentioned in the 2 sessions report. That includes strengthening support for emerging and futuristic industries, as well as growing the real economy. Now, enterprises in these variant fields have different pace of growth. So what is your plan of helping enterprises in various fields to grow. Now, in emerging industries, that includes aerospace industry. So far, there is not much plan for it. So is there any plan to attracting more aerospace leaders to Hong Kong? Especially, we have heard some good news about about Hong Kong's participation in the aerospace industry recently. And also, there's quantum computing. What's your plan for growing this sector?
谢谢黄议员。
Secretary, thank you, Professor Wang, for the questions. On upgrading and transforming of traditional industries, on development of new industries, we do have different policies for them. Say, for example, just now Ms. Rosalind Chen talked about the new industry acceleration scheme. We want to help traditional industries build smart production line. We have now created some 130 smart production lines under the scheme. We said that we want to meet the target within this term of the government, but we already met the target now. I just talked about smart production line. This is how we help traditional industries upgrade. This is how traditional industries can grow with rather minimal investment. Apart from upgrading traditional industries, we want new industries to develop. They may need new production lines, they need new facilities. For new industries to develop, they need land, they need to procure facilities, build production lines, pull together talents. The time taken may be longer, but as long as we have the patience, we believe that we will see results in a few years' time. We hope to approve 10 projects every year. Of course, we understand that over the past few years, we've only approved 5 of them. But if we approve 10 projects every year, then in a decade or two, we're going to have a few hundred new industries setting up presence in Hong Kong. That would definitely help our development. We need to be patient. We are already seeing results. You talked about new industries such as aviation, aerospace. Of course, if these industries want to come to Hong Kong, we're more than happy to take them. You talked about quantum computing, aerospace, aviation. We welcome them, but we have to be pragmatic. We want to use our advantage to serve our countries. Hong Kong's edge is with research and development. This is how we can address technical problems of our country. Over the past few years, many of our universities have contributed to our country's aerospace development. In the future, if there is a day when our country feels that Hong Kong can play a bigger role in developing the aerospace industry, of course, we will be more than happy to serve. If there's any aerospace companies that want to establish presence in Hong Kong, of course, we are going to fully support them. On new industries and futures industries, I'm not sure the public know what they are. I hope that the administration will tell the public more about our expectation and what they are so that they know more about the government's plan. This is how we develop industries. We don't just rely on ourselves. For the new industrialization acceleration scheme, if there are new and good enterprises, we offer them support. The same goes for industry-oriented fund and venture fund. The government will definitely support future and new industries you talked about. Mr. Chen Cho-Kwang. Thank you. From the paper, I see that the administration and the secretary have dedicated much effort to the future of Hong Kong. We have a number of challenges to address: land, capital, industry transformation, hard technology. I believe that the administration can solve these issues. But on talent, can the administration offer us more information? Very soon, we're going to have 130 smart production lines and many microelectronic production lines. I'm not worried about going from 0 to 1 because we have so many INT talents in the universities. But going from 1 to N, I don't know how we're going to do that. Will the administration, say, work with VTC to nurture talents that can operate the systems? Second, as another member said, the rent is expensive in Hong Kong. When these talents come to our city, although we know that there will be talent accommodation in the northern metropolis, they will not be able to meet the needs of talents that are already coming. Are we going to offer subsidy? Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chen, for the questions. I will try to answer your questions on the operational level. Talent has always been the most important element in all of our missions. We always advocate for talent driving INT and INT driving industries. Without a platform, without an industries, we cannot really talk about talent because there's no meaning to it. ITIB advocated for having talent drive INT. You see that we have launched so many policies. We have 3 parks, 5 public organizations. We have multiple acceleration schemes of tens of billions of dollars. The end goal is always to pull together talent. Without talent, we can achieve nothing. Without platform, without industry parks, how can we attract talents to Hong Kong? Let's look at the Microelectronic Research and Development Institute. The CEO is the talent that we invited from other places. And under the CEO, we already have 100 local and foreign talents. We are now recruiting 2 management teams, one for the AI R&D Institute. The Life and Health R&D Institute is also recruiting talent. We have a frontier technology research scheme. We are using some $3 billion to recruit top-notch scientists to Hong Kong to support the scheme. We have also recruited over 100 scientists from other countries to come to Hong Kong to work. We have the new industrialization acceleration scheme. We may have just earmarked some $10 billion, but we need, say for example, if we hire 40 people, then the enterprise will have to hire another 40 people on their own. If a PhD graduate earns some $45,000 a month, then the enterprise will have to pay half of the salary because the scheme is offered on a 1-to-2 matching basis. We also have a dedicated entity in the northern metropolis to attract talents for the loop. Every summer, we recruit university students from all around the world to the science park. What I wanted to say is that with all the policies that we've launched, we're trying to attract talent to Hong Kong. We now have multiple schemes and programs to encourage more industries to set up presence in Hong Kong, and this will create job opportunities for local young people. We're going to launch a tender exercise next month for the Loop and the Sandy Ridge data center. All the schemes and programs launched by the ITIB use talent as one of the KPIs. So that's my questions. That's my answer to Mr. Lee's question. Thank you. I'm glad that the administration have dedicated much effort on developing new quality productive forces and promoting new industrializations. I've collected comments from the trade on the new subsidy scheme and programs. First, on protection of business-sensitive information during the application process, the trade said that when they apply for a new industrialization subsidy scheme, because the products involve some technical and business-sensitive information, they're not able to offer comprehensive data to the government. As a result, their applications were not approved. There is requirement and demand for protection of technology in certain industries and fields. So how do we strike a balance between the information needed to vet an application and protecting the enterprise? Can we have the government sign a confidentiality agreement with the applicants? Second, on the timing of the approval procedures, I know that vetting takes time, but I think that there should be a performance pledge. For certain industries, their market grow and change very rapidly. So should we not divide the applicants into many different categories? For industries with technology that is more mature or with lower risk, can we establish a fast-track application for them? My third question on procurement of facilities equipment. Because the funding is offered on a 1-to-2 enterprise to government matching basis. When the enterprise launch their procurement exercise, they need to obtain quotations from 5 companies. But for some equipment, there are fewer than 5 suppliers. So can the government not offer more flexibility to this kind of application so that this type of company can benefit? Thank you. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Alvin Lee, for the question. And thank you for relaying the trade's comments to us. I'd like to ask Ms. Rosalind Chen to answer the question. Assistant Commissioner. To answer a member's question on new industrialization funding scheme, the member said that when the applicants filed their applications, they sometimes found that they may not be able to submit business-sensitive information to the assessment panel. We abide by all the privacy ordinance and we keep everything confidential. When we vet the applications, we have experts. We abide by all the internal procedures. We keep everything secret so that the applicant's interest will not be jeopardized. Second, on the timing, the member asked if we can categorize some of the funding applications and the project nature. We have heard similar comments. That's why we have a designated track. That is, if some applicant funding application is lower than $2.8 million, then the application procedures will be more simple and direct. Many projects have gone through the designated track. They didn't have to meet with us, and through circulation, we're able to vet and obtain approval from different parties before granting the funding. This is the adjustment we've made after listening to the trade. Third, on the procurement. Some applicants were not able to obtain enough quotations, and that's why their applications were rejected. Well, all the requirements are in line with that of the government. That's because we want to strike a balance. In the process, if applicants have different needs or demands, please reach out to the Secretariat. Thank you.
好，OK，跟住係陳佩良議員。
Mr. Chen Pui-Leung. Thank you, Chairperson. Actually, my question has been partially answered by the Secretary. That's in relation to aerospace technologies. Now, the nation has designated commercial aerospace industry as our strategic industry. And also some cities in the Bay Area have already made plans to commission researchers on aerospace technologies. It has already become a closed-loop ecosystem. So should we start planning early? There is great potential for the space economy. So in nurturing new industries, can we allocate some resources to, say, spatial data technologies as well as aerospace, navigation as our strategic industries, and include them in our funding schemes? Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chan, Professor Chan. Now, there are three major pillars, including AI and robotics, advanced manufacturing, and life and health science. And there are also three new future industries we are supporting in alignment with the country. That includes aerospace, maritime exploration, and quantum computing. So we will gradually build our strength in our upper and midstream industry. That includes R&D. So if we can build our strength in the mid to low stream industry as well, then we will be very happy. But we will first start with the upstream parts, and we will provide support to any companies in these fields to come to Hong Kong. Ms. Christine Fong. Thank you, Chairperson. I fully support the government's bid to promote new industrialization, and I also support the establishment of the $10 billion R&D-oriented fund to bulk up our ecosystem. There are 5 themes, including life and health technologies and other 4 categories. So let it focus on life and health technologies. Now, this segment has a very large market. Now, earlier on, I have met with some business leaders in life and health in Beijing. They've already got FDA approval, and they have now conducted the second round of clinical trials. Now, for these businesses with great potential, I think the government has to work harder to attract them to Hong Kong. There is also the new industrialization acceleration scheme. Now, the talents are based in Beijing or other overseas countries like Singapore. They have a lot of tax concession for these businesses. Now, there are some pharmaceutical giants which have been attracted to Hangzhou with their favorable preferential policies. Now, on life and health, for mature projects, how do we compare to Singapore in terms of tax concession and other favorable policies? In Singapore, the tax deduction cap has been raised to 400%. So can we work harder on this? And how does the new industrialization acceleration scheme come into play on that? Now, thank you. Concerning tax rebate on research expenditure, we have raised it to 300%. Now, I think the largest advantage of Hong Kong compared with the other economies you've mentioned is the backing of the country as well as our connection with the world. We have the extremely large national market as well as connectivity with the world. Now, the business you mentioned just now, it is very likely that this is the one that we are trying to attract to come to Hong Kong. Please look forward to our good news. Mr. Andrew Lam. Thank you, Chairperson. Now, the integrated developments of education, technology, and industry is something that the government has been striving to achieve. This concept has been mentioned by the government on many occasions. Now, in our context in Hong Kong, there are lots of tertiary educational institutions which have been making substantial investments in the upstream part of the industry chain, that is research. Now, many educational bodies have obtained funding from the various funding schemes under the ITIB. At the same time, many research projects are conducted outside of these funding schemes' scope. That includes a reindustrialization or new industrialization projects. Those projects are funded under the existing system in the various universities. So my question is, does the ITIB have a mechanism to actively identify research projects conducted by different universities which may fit the context of your schemes, in particular those projects in relation to new industrialization? These research projects may be effective in addressing the pain points along the industry chain. So for these research projects, will the ITIB proactively bring these projects under your scope to enhance the ecosystem? Secretary, thank you, Mr. Lam, for your suggestions. Now, like many economies, we share a similar funding model. That is, the primary funding for R&D comes from bodies like ITIB. But there is also the possibility that university supports their own research projects. Now, the UGC provides some $2 billion to university research teams to conduct upstream basic research projects. However, the bulk of the funding comes from the ITIB. So each scheme has been established out of different reasons. So the UGC and the UGC's funding are mostly for explorative researches. For example, those projects involving the origin of the universe as well as other arts research projects. Now, for ITIB schemes, our schemes are more targeted. The goal is to commercialize upstream research results and support the development of downstream players. So the ITIB, in particular the ITC, focuses on the reasonable use of funding. We recognize the necessity of different schemes. There are funding schemes for supporting cutting-edge research projects. However, other government departments, including the Housing Bureau, has their own funding scheme to support technological research in building technologies. So in the ITIB's concept, we provide a leading or steering function for the applicants. Second round, Mr. Dennis Leung. Thank you. A follow-up question on our standards. Now, some manufacturers for producing face masks in Hong Kong are struggling about which rules to follow because of the trade war between the country and the US. So some manufacturers are not adopting the Guobiao national standard. So can we provide more recognition to the Guobiao so as to allow those products to come into our markets as well as the international market? Thank you. Now, there will be dedicated laws, dedicated legislations in the Northern Metropolis in the future. The governments, including the ITIP, will bring in advanced building arrangements from the mainland. In the mainland, the construction industry boasts a very high standard. So from our perspective, Guobiao is also a leading international standard. Now, some other examples include standards adopted by the manufacturing industry. Now, we are still building the advanced manufacturing industry in Hong Kong. Now, in the mainland, the country has very high standard for, say, for power supply for manufacturing industries. The country is involved in setting international standards as well. Now, in the future, I think Hong Kong has a big role to play to set leading world standard for emerging tracks. So this is something that we will seek to do more rigorously. Thank you. Now, I will have my turn to ask the question as well. So, overall speaking, members supported the Bureau's work in terms of new quality productive forces as well as new industrialization. That is also Hong Kong's future. So we support the Bureau's work. So has the Bureau set some quantitative KPIs? Now, according to the paper, you have made some admirable achievements for your work. However, running on the opportunity of the 5-year plan, will you set some KPIs for 5 years down the future? Now, for example, in 2024, the contribution of the industries to GDP is 3.8%. So what about 5 years later? And also, the amount of talents, the number of talents in INT in Hong Kong, will there be more of them in Hong Kong and also will the expenditure on research contributes more to our GDP. Also, there are many funding schemes, and there are lots of industry parks. So when mainland and overseas businesses want to come to Hong Kong, they would have difficulties in choosing which funding schemes to apply for and which industry parks to settle in because they don't know about the information. So can you reach out more to these potential applicants? The information is not very user-friendly on your website. About the positioning of the parks as well as the competition is also worrying. Now, say we have tax-free arrangements for one park. What about the others? So how will the other parks be able to compete with that one with a tax-free arrangement? And also, Sandy Ridge Data Park is a major piece of infrastructure. There will be a lot of preferential policies for the tenants. Then other potential data park or data center operators will not be able to compete. Now, some businesses are have already established a working relationship with some data centers. So will there be space for those existing data center operators? So that's a question asked frequently by local, mainland, and overseas businesses alike.
谢谢葛议员。
Secretary, thank you for the question. On our future KPIs, we're looking into them on the scale of the talent we need. Say, for example, in the INT development blueprint, we stipulate that in 2030, we want to achieve a certain number of talents in Hong Kong. The first 5 years has ended. We are confident that we will be able to meet the goal set out in the blueprint in 2030. We have more and more talents every year. According to the statistics last year, the number of frontier technology staff we have exceeds 60,000. The R&D contribution to GDP. This is a question that many people want to know. The R&D contribution to GDP account for 2.8 in a country that's higher than 1.13 in Hong Kong. So we do need to catch up. But the calculation methodology we adopt in Hong Kong is different from that of other countries and the mainland. On the mainland, they base their calculations on private investment. In Hong Kong, we base our calculations on concrete expenditure. So expenditure is usually higher than initial investment. In the past, we focused on 0 to 1. We didn't have such an industries in the past. We didn't have R&D of INT in the past. So we didn't have the relevant figures. When we want to develop the R&D industries, we need investment. So we need to respect international standards. I just came back from the Northern Europe. I went to Switzerland and Finland. They base their calculation on the R&D expenditure, but they are not just going from 0 to 1, but 1 to 100 or 1 to 10. Last year, these two Northern European countries have their R&D contribution to GDP exceeding 2 and 3.2%. They want to achieve the goal of R&D contribution to GDP exceeding 4%. And I think that we should learn from them. In the next 5 years, we need to review our methodology in calculating R&D. IT and IB and the CNSD is looking into modifying our calculation methodology. We're going to make an announcement in due course. Also, we need to seriously consider how we should invest more in R&D over the next 5 years. If the average figure cannot reach the country's average in terms of R&D contribution to GDP, then we will lose face. But this is a high standard to meet. We need to reach the target. Now, on new industrialization, I cannot give you a concrete figure as to our goal, but looking at Singapore, they've reached 20%, Shenzhen 30%. If Hong Kong wants to be an INT hub, if our investment cannot reach double-digit percentage, then we should not call ourselves an INT center. I hope that in 10 years' time, the INT contribution to GDP will reach double digits. You talked about the positioning of the park. The position of the park is very much clear to us. What is the role of the Loop, Sandton Technopole? We've talked about this some few years ago. What is the Sandy Ridge? Sandy Ridge is for a data center, a computing powerhouse. The positioning of all these entities are very much clear. We are facing competition. Concessionary measures. You cannot have concessions for just one park but not the others. The SAR government is one government. When we decide on concessionary policies, we need to be cautious and careful. On the Sandy Ridge data center, is this the only data center we're going to have in Hong Kong? We don't have such restrictions. For Sandy Ridge, we ask for 1.25 petaflops. This is lower than the national standards. So we hope that there will be high standards and high quality data center. We have to consider electricity, water supply. We of course welcome high quality data centers. At the same time, we need to look at the scale of the data center in the future while considering the cost. If the data center is not of scale, then it will not be competitive on the market. Thank you, Secretary. I think that concludes this item. Thank you, Secretary and government officials, for attending this meeting. The next meeting will be held at 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. on the 22nd of June, 2026. That's a Monday. The administration proposes to discuss the integrated development of education, technology, and talent. If there's no further comment, we're going to discuss this at the next meeting. Item 2 on the agenda, any other business. There being no AOB, meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.